Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Warrior podcast, technically the third episode of the Brand Martinez podcast. But first, I'd like to start with me saying about how I went on an ayahuasca retreat this past week. It was Monday through Wednesday, and it was probably the most intense, beautiful, spiritual experience I've ever had. Now, it sounds really dramatic, but I really mean it. It was absolutely amazing. And I also want to talk about the IBJJF tournament today, but I'll get to the ayahuasca part first because it's a more exciting part. So I got there about Monday night, and I didn't know anybody there, so I was very wary, I guess. Like, I kept all my belongings to myself. Ooh, there's my alarm. Sorry about that. But I made sure, like, my wallet, my phone, all my belongings were, like, close to me because I didn't trust anybody there. But after the third night, well, not the third night, but on the third day, like, I felt like I knew everybody there. Like, I was best friends with them for a long time. And the first night when we got there, it was in Elbert, Colorado, and we took a lemongrass bath, which was basically like a big old like pitcher worth of lemongrass water, and we just poured it over our heads. And we were supposed to go into the lemongrass bath like thinking of what's our intention with the ayahuasca, like what do we want to get out of it. And what I wanted to get out of it was finding out like who I am as a person, and like maybe like what I want to do, but mostly like who I am. And the first night, I thought that you were only allowed to take one dose of ayahuasca, and then the healers could say if you could take another one, but in reality, you could have as many as you wanted. And the second night, they actually said how just like let the medicine talk to you, like tell you when to get more and when to just like stay put. And the first night I took one dose, nothing happened. A few hours in, like the only effects that I really got from it is that I couldn't fall asleep. Like I couldn't really like stop my mind from like thinking about stuff. But after a few hours, one of the head healer, Danielle, came and asked me if I wanted to get another one, because I think that she thought that I had been really affected by the first dose. That's why I hadn't even gotten up at all. But in reality, the reason why I didn't get up to get a second one was just because I didn't think that I was allowed to get another one. So I went up to get a second one, and I got a little bit of effects, like sometimes maybe half hour after the second dose, like if I looked at my hand, it looked like it was starting to like turn into wood. And then if I looked down at like my blanket, it looked like it was moving like how algae does underwater. So just some hallucinations like here and there. Then one thing that was kind of weird was when I was just sitting up. I don't know if you ever like almost slipped on like a hardwood floor or something. You get that like kind of sinking feeling in your chest and your stomach. For some reason, for I don't know, maybe an hour, like every 10 minutes or so, I'd get that feeling, like even though I was just sitting down or laying down. And I was actually pretty disappointed after the first night. I was thinking, I can't believe I did this. I don't really know anybody here. And this and that, and just kind of thinking really negative. But then I talked to some of the other people, and they all, not all, but a lot of them seem to have good experiences, and they all seem to be pretty positive. Some of them have done this before. Some of them were just into natural healing stuff. And I remember I was getting tea after I was talking to this one guy, Tom, this really interesting guy. He was saying how, I think he said that he read somewhere that early Christianity actually believed in reincarnation. That kind of shook my whole world out because I was born Christian. I was always taught like heaven and hell and all that. And I haven't really looked too deep into it myself, but it's an interesting thought nonetheless, like if that's true and all that. And when I stopped talking to him to get some tea, I remember very specifically it was the orange mandarin spice tea, and on the picture on the box there was a picture of a geisha girl. And for whatever reason, I remember like when I saw the geisha girl, I felt like this like un like just extreme like peace and calm and like happiness when I looked at the geisha girl. And I was thinking like, what the heck is that? Like I never felt like anything like that before. And I kind of connected it to traveling because I've always wanted to travel in the past. And before I started jujitsu, I was actually planning a 1 month backpacking trip to Japan. But I decided before I go somewhere else and travel that I was going to travel in a sense like with a martial art, like take a journey with that instead, which I think was definitely a good decision because if I never did that, I probably would have never done the ayahuasca thing, the ayahuasca retreat. But I connected it to traveling because I've always wanted to go to Japan and China and any Asian country that has like a lot of rich culture, but most specifically Japan or China. So throughout the day, I kind of thought of how like maybe it is relating to travel or maybe it's just I'm not sure exactly, but at night instead of going into the intention with trying to find out who I went in with for the second ceremony with the intention of just trying to find a general direction of where to go. And that was because I had that little weird experience with the geisha girl on the tea box, thinking like, just show me like the way if I'm meant to travel in the future, because that's what I got from the first night, even though it didn't happen until the second morning. And this time, I think I took a total of 3 doses of the ayahuasca. In the first dose, I didn't feel anything. I waited maybe an hour until probably 10 other people got a second dose because I didn't want to seem like I was rushing to get a second one. And then maybe 10, 15 minutes after the second one, I started to get all smiley, kind of goofy, kind of like laughing. And this time I was thinking more of just like letting the medicine take me, like show me what I need to see. And more like listening when I need to get a second dose or third dose. And I never really got a message from the ayahuasca, so to speak, to get a second dose because it didn't really have an effect on me. It was just keeping my mind going. But after I took the second dose, I was kind of going back and forth, like, should I get a third dose now? No, I shouldn't. Like, I should wait. But then all of a sudden, I got this like uncontrollable confidence, like, okay, now I need to go right now to get a third dose. So I got a third dose. And when I came back to my bed, I waited for a while, just listening for the push to get a fourth one. And eventually I got it. It was when the shaman was playing ceremonial music. And I kind of had to hobble up because the ayahuasca had taken, like, I wasn't really hallucinating or anything, but I felt almost like I was exhausted and I was struggling just for me to walk. Like, if you ever had gone to the bathroom in the middle of the night or something and you're exhausted, you just kind of like hobble over like to the bathroom through the hallway. That was how I was approaching where the shaman was. But then the head healer, Danielle, said how she didn't grab me, but she put her hand on my shoulder and said how I need to wait until he finishes the music before I can get another one. So I sat in the chair that was next to the area where he was at. And I forgot to mention this, but the first night they told us about purging. And what purging is, after you take the ayahuasca, they believe that, like when you throw up, or they call it purge, it's releasing all of the negative emotions and all negative thoughts and feelings and everything. And They also said another form of purging is actually like breaking out into a cold sweat, which strangely enough, someone actually did. They fainted before the ayahuasca ceremony even began, and it was weird because like for 5 minutes you're in like a cold sweat, and we thought that we weren't sure what happened exactly, but we were all worried about her. But then after 5 minutes, she was completely fine. And when I heard, well, when they told us about the whole purging, how they believe it's the release of negative emotions, me being me, I don't really didn't really believe in that stuff. So I was like, okay, whatever, but I'll be respectful of your beliefs. And the first night I might have gotten a stomach ache, but I never had a purge or anything. And the second night, when I was waiting to get the fourth dose, I got it wasn't even really a stomach ache, but it felt like something was just coming from my stomach. And so I had to run over to one of the buckets that they laid out because they believe that the ayahuasca needs to be returned to the earth. So they have buckets out for people if they need to purge, so that in the morning they can bury it somewhere in the woods. And what was it? Okay, so I ran over to the bucket, and I was throwing up so much it was like a continuous like stream for almost like 10 seconds. Then I stopped, and then like another 10 seconds. Then when I finally stopped, it was like another 5 seconds. And normally I would have thought that my throat would be like on fire. I'd have a really bad stomach ache, and like maybe my nose would burn. I just feel like crap. But after purging, it felt like a weight was like lifted off of my shoulders. I felt like all this almost like power like running through my body. And it was such a shock to my system that I actually fell over, and Danielle, the head healer, actually came over and asked if I was okay. And even though I just like had this like felt like power shoot through me, and I felt like I was going to pass out, as soon as she like put her hand on my shoulder asking if I was okay to get up and walk again. And I didn't walk like how I would normally. I kind of had to hobble over back to my bed. But what happened next was, I thought, was really interesting, because I started to feel like I was about to have a seizure. And I've had epilepsy for about 6, 7 years now. Actually, 5 years now. And when I got back to my bed, whenever I'm about to have a seizure, there's this like sound that I hear. It's hard to explain, but first starts out like as a ringing sound, and then it kind of turns to ringing and vibration, and then ringing vibration. Then like if you hold your hands and you like go like this really fast, that like shuffling sound it makes, and then I have a seizure. But if I concentrate like really hard, like tense up my whole body to like try and stay still, it kind of postpones it, or sometimes long enough for me to take some more of my epilepsy medicine to prevent me from having a seizure. And I started to hear that, and at one point I started to actually seize like violently. And whenever well, not when I'm having a seizure, but when I'm about to come out of a seizure, like come to consciousness, I always feel like I'm in this place where I'm like fighting to survive, or sometimes I'm like climbing a ladder or like a mountain or something to escape from somewhere. And it's always very brief, and it's hard to describe like what it looks like exactly. But every single time I've had a seizure, I know I've had a seizure, because that's what goes through my mind in like a few seconds before I come to. Then sometimes if it's really bad and I like go back like unconscious, then I'll have it again. So sometimes it's a little more vivid, but usually it's pretty vague, and it's like I can't really explain like where it is. Like I want to almost say like hell or something, but I don't know, that might sound a little dramatic. I think it's just someplace in my head where I go to. And I started to feel like I was in that place again. And another thing that I should mention is, whenever I have a seizure and I'm coming out of it and I'm in that place, I feel an extreme sense of helplessness, because my body's in so much pain. I'm so weak, I have no energy, and I just feel terrible. But for whatever reason this time, like, I could tell that I was in that place, but I didn't feel helpless. I felt lucid. And instead of like fighting to survive or escape, I was fighting and thriving, so to speak. And sometimes I would open my eyes and I would look around, and like the floors would be like look like it was tilting back and forth. If I look up, the ceiling looked like it'd be coming down. And one time I actually looked at my arm and I had a sweater on and it was like all wrinkled up and stuff. And it started to look like it was like melting away until my arm just disappeared completely. And I decided that to make a conscious effort to close my eyes, because I knew that if I opened my eyes, I was gonna be hallucinated. I was going to hallucinate, and but if I had my eyes closed, I was gonna have to face something that was in my mind. So I didn't completely. I didn't only close my eyes like the rest of the time. It wasn't until probably halfway through the healing ceremony where I managed to do that. But somewhere along the line, when I was laying in my bed before the healing ceremony and I was seizing, I realized how I'm in this place where I've been before many times. Like, where is this place? And for whatever reason, I got a sense of feeling that I belong here for some reason. I'm not sure what it was, but and I'm not sure how long I was seizing for, but I was seizing uncontrollably for quite some time. And I actually told all the healers and the shaman before how I had epilepsy and what to do if I have a seizure. And I think the only reason they didn't come over to see if I was okay was because I was like zipped up like really tightly in my sleeping bag. So it probably didn't look like I was like moving like that much at all. I'm not sure. And then plus there was like 30 other people they needed to make sure we're okay as well. So, and it was dark as well, and I was kind of in the center of everybody. So it would have been kind of hard to see exactly what was going on without walking around. But it was strange because even though I was seizing and I was very aware of where I was, who I was, and I wasn't in any pain at all, and I didn't feel like exhausted at all. Usually when I have a seizure, it takes a while for me just to remember my name, where I am, my birth date, all that. And I remember seeing almost like kaleidoscope images of like peoples, creatures, like beings is the only way I know how to describe it really, like animals and stuff. And eventually Danielle came to me and asked me if I was okay to walk to the healing ceremony. And I said I was okay, even though just a second ago I was seizing uncontrollably. And I got up and managed to hobble over to where the healing ceremony was. And I looked to the guy next to me when I sat down. He was like very calmly like sitting like this. And so I decided to try and like copy him. And when I sat down, I tried to do that, but then I started like move back and forth like really fast and like back and side to side and forward, and I couldn't control myself. And I decided to, because before when I was laying down, every once in a while I would like tense up to try and like stop it. But as time went on, I was more and more like open to just letting it happen. And then during the healing ceremony, I completely like gave up my power, so to speak, to try and, I guess, surrender almost to the medicine so that I could get the full effect from it. And I remember that they were playing ceremonial music. There was drum. One of the healers were playing the drums, like a handmade drum. And I remember for quite a while I wasn't able to stop flailing around or seizing or whatever you want to call it. And almost right before the drums stopped playing, I got this feeling how like moving back and forth and everything, there's like demons trying to like tear apart like my spirit or something. But me moving back to center was me trying to like hold it together. And at right before I heard this, I think I saw like a big like kaleidoscope like cat or something, like a tiger or a lion, but it was like just kind of like this part of their face, like the eyes, the nose, and like the top part of the mouth. And it looked like it was staring at me like through the bushes, like it was stalking me. And it looked like, and right before it like pounced on me, I'm not sure if I said this to myself, like mind over matter, or if the medicine spoke to me in some way, but I heard, I'm a warrior. And I think it could have been me just saying, like, I'm a warrior. I can do this. I'm better than this. I'm stronger than this. But another thing I think it could have been was the medicine, like, talking to me, saying, like, I'm a warrior. But then the other thing that I think is actually entirely possible was that, like, in a past life, I was a warrior or something. And at that moment, the spirit from my past life came and like helped bind together my spirit, because as soon as I heard that I'm a warrior, I went from flailing back and forth, side to side, all around, like really violently. I can't do it right now because I'm on a physio ball. I don't want to fall off of it. And I just like sat up straight with my arms like this, like in a meditative position, and then just took a deep, deep breath, then a deep breath out, and the rest of the time I was completely fine. And then after that, they stopped playing drums, and he came around with plant essence oil or something like that and put it in our hands. Then he held it up to our face, and we breathed. And well, I breathed in really deeply. I'm not sure if you're supposed to or not, but I felt like I had just run for a long time in summer, like when it was 100 degrees out. My whole body was like really hot, but then I felt like I just took like a really cold shower and my whole body was just really like relaxed. And it was strange because I went from flailing violently to just completely at peace. And I think I kind of got that, like what I wanted to know was like I'm a warrior, whatever that means exactly. I think ever since I was a little kid, I've always, in a sense, had the mind of a warrior. I've always been very mentally tough. Things like rarely fazed me, no matter what they were. Like even when I got epilepsy and was out of school for however long I was, like a month or so, or maybe even longer actually, because I was having so many seizures, and because of that, I wasn't socializing very much, and all the medications I was on, I was suicidal, I was depressed, but I just kind of mind over mattered it. Like, I'm better than this. There's no way I'm gonna kill myself just because meds are making me kind of sad. And then I think, like, when maybe me in a past life came and helped, like, bind my spirit together, it's like, so you always had the mind of a warrior, now you have the spirit of a warrior. Now it's time for you to build like the body of a warrior, which is actually what I plan to do, which is why I'm also changing the name of the podcast to the Warrior Podcast, where it was just the Brandon Martinez podcast before. And it's also a little more unique, than just, my name. And after the healing ceremony, after they'd done everything, I was walking back to my bed, and I was walking pretty much just a straight line. The only thing that I still felt affecting me was I felt like a little dizzy kind of, and a little tired, but I walked back to my bed, and I was going to lay down, but instead I got my thermos and just walked over calmly to the water fountain, not the water fountain, but the sink, and filled up my water bottle, sat down on one of the tables, and just sat, like in cross-legged position, just like looking back and forth, looking outside, and just completely calm and in control of everything. Then I went to the bathroom, and then I came back. I sat down again, and then I actually saw Patrick, one of the other people who I got to meet, and I told him about my experience. I asked him, and I don't want to go like too deep into like too specific about his experiences or anybody's experiences really because it's pretty personal. So I'll just say one little thing about it. But he was saying how he thinks in past life, like he was told how he was an explorer, like in the Amazon or the Congo or something. That kind of related how I believe in a past life I was a warrior. And I think, in a sense, that I should start becoming a warrior or something. And after talking to him for a little bit, I went back to one of the other tables because he went back to bed. And I was just sitting casually looking outside, sometimes getting up, looking outside at the stars. And after maybe half hour or so, I went back to my bed. And I went back to my bed and I just laid almost in like perfect position, like right up straight on my back and everything, my hands like on my abdomen. But what was weird was maybe 10 minutes into laying down, I started to like seize again. It wasn't as violent as before, but I wasn't fighting it like at all. I was just like letting it happen. Because somewhere in my mind, I think like I knew that I'm not going to be hurt by this in any way. I'm just going to deal with it and beat it. And I feel like I kind of finally overcame my epilepsy in a sense. Like finally overcame that stuff, that thing that was holding me back all these years for whatever reasons. And but there's also still a part of me there's a lot of things that warriors, modern day warriors, can do in like for jobs. There's of course like UFC, boxing, and stuff like that, or being a trainer. And while that is actually pretty appealing to me and everything, I also still I've always had a strong desire to help people. That's why I've always wanted to be a nurse or a surgeon or a therapist or psychologist, anything like that. But I have an even stronger urge to help people now. So I want to go to another retreat because I know they have another one in June, then August, and then October. But I really want to sit and meditate on everything that I got from that experience and like pursue becoming a warrior, like starting to really exercise more frequently, get serious about my jiu-jitsu training, start doing Muay Thai, and to also, since I got an even stronger urge to help people, explore my options. Like maybe I want to become a healer or something for the group that does the retreats, or maybe I want to start going to school for and because I was going to do video game design, then I was going to do business, but maybe I should pursue my original dream of being a nurse or a physician's assistant or some kind of doctor. So I'm going to sit and meditate on those thoughts for a while. And once I realize that I've come up with something, once I've made progress in some way, then I'll feel like I'll be able to go again, because maybe I can, after I get whatever I get out of meditating on those thoughts, maybe like those thoughts will be like kind of case closed and I don't need to explore them again. Or maybe it'll open a little more to, okay, so I find out who I am. I need to find out like how I'm gonna get there or something. Well, I could probably find that out on my own, but I want to feel like I earned the right to have another experience, work to grow as a person. Like I really need to try hard myself to grow, and then after I've grown by just my own work, then I can get another push from ayahuasca in the future sometime, whether it be a couple months from now or a couple years from now. And that pretty much sums up the ayahuasca experience. I mean, I met a lot of cool people. Strangely, at the beginning, I said how everybody there, I was wary of them because, I didn't know any of them. But at the end of it, or even just on the yeah, actually, probably at the end of it, I would say, is that I felt like I could talk to everybody, tell them my experience without having to worry about them judging me, that you could tell me the same thing too. And it was just a really awesome experience. And I would actually recommend everybody, well, maybe not everybody, but I would recommend to look into ayahuasca and then maybe go on a retreat. But it should definitely be something you do only if like you really want to do it. Like, you shouldn't go, I don't think, like, if your friend drags you to go. I mean, if your friend asks you to go and you're kind of uneasy about it, I would do some research on what people have said in the past, how much it's going to cost. And I think most people who do it will get something out of it as long as they go in with a positive mind. And that's about everything from the retreat. But now, so the IBJJF Denver Open is today. And unfortunately, I don't think I've prepared as much as I could have. Part of it was because on Friday I had 2 back-to-back seizures, and I couldn't train for like the next 3 days. And then right after that, I had the ayahuasca retreat. And this was last week, not this last Friday, just a couple of days ago. But then I had an ayahuasca retreat, and all I did was running a little bit in the woods. It was kind of hard because it was on trails and it was going up and downhill. But it was nothing like really high intensity or anything. And then I also couldn't do jujitsu either. And I was going to do jujitsu on Thursday. But for whatever reason, like as soon as I laid down, I didn't wake up for like another 11 hours. And like when I woke up, I was just completely exhausted as well, because I don't think thinking back to it, I got maybe any sleep at night, at least for the ayahuasca retreat, because it lasts from, the ceremony goes from like 10 to the morning. And I think it's fairly difficult, or at least it was for me, to get even a little bit of sleep during the ceremony. So people, and including myself, were sleeping during the day after the retreat was over. But so back to the IBJJF, I'm in the adult male white belt league for the lightweight division. And I think there's 12 other people in my division, so I need to win 4 matches, or 4 matches if I want to win gold. And while I know that it's unlikely, since I've only been doing jiu-jitsu for a little more than 2 months now. Yeah, 2 months, because I started February 17th. And it's unlikely that I'm going to win gold, but I still intend to win gold. I still intend to beat every opponent that I face. But I'm not going to go in all headstrong like I'm the best, I'm going to beat everybody. I'm going to go in with the intent of more of, I'm going to do the best I can. And I know that if I do the best I can, that in some way I can win. Like maybe I can't beat everybody, but I can at least do something I never thought I'd be able to do. Like if I can somehow pull my opponent into my guard, I'd be surprised. Like that's a win already for me. So I'm excited about that, a little nervous. And there's also a fight to win Colorado State, May 12th. I definitely plan to enter in that as well. But the thing that kind of, I don't want to say sucks about it, but every time I've tried to enter, it takes me to trackwrestling.com or something. And instead of jiu-jitsu, it's wrestling. And I've never wrestled. And I'm kind of confused on why it's like that. Maybe I'm just not going to the right website or something. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I definitely want to start doing podcasts more often. I said at the beginning I wanted to do them once a week, and for the first 2 weeks I was doing it once a week, but then I stopped for quite a while. And I really want to try and start like earning some money from YouTube. Like I want to maybe make a career out of it. Not necessarily a career, but I want to be able to do it to where it becomes a part of my life, to where it's not such a stressful thing for me, because every time after I do a podcast, I feel a lot better. But every time trying to go into it, it's always really hard for me because I've always been kind of shy. And even though I'm just talking to a camera, and like nobody's watching really, it's still difficult for me. I feel that maybe if I maintain doing it at least once a week, that I can, in 6 months' time, so however many episodes that is, I feel like it could be something that it becomes more of a habit than something I really have to prepare, push for. And then probably like 100 episodes in, if I stay consistent at least once a week, maybe twice a week, then it'll be something that just becomes part of my life and I can do like clockwork, like no problem. And that's all for today. And I'm going to try and actually do one Monday, or probably Tuesday actually, because I kind of want to take a day off from everything since I'm doing the tournament today. And I'm going to try and do one sometime early next week, and then the second one late next week, so I can really start to try and get into the groove of things. And that's everything, and thanks everybody for watching. And again, I recommend looking into ayahuasca. You don't have to go to a retreat or anything, but I think it's something to definitely look into. And thanks for watching, and bye.